I just want to have a quick video today. So, what's been going on Twitter is that essentially there's been rumors and speculations for probably about a month now that all of these Xbox games will be coming to PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch, the competitors' platforms. And it has kind of crescendoed at the moment. Actually, it could go further. It's a bit like that GameStop, stock thing. Like it's pretty high right now, but it could go even higher depending on how things go. For now, it's just a rumor, and you guys know that I do not believe in these insiders. I have to say though, Xbox insiders are the best insiders by far. There's no competition. Bar none. They are the best insiders. So it kind of gives some validity, to it potentially. But either way, I am mistrustful of any insiders, regardless of the track record, because what most people do is that they count the times that the insiders are right, and then they dismiss or they just excuse the times that the insiders are wrong. So right now, we're going to treat it as a rumor. That is the same way I would treat it if it was a PlayStation thing, or a Nintendo thing, PC thing, whatever have you. I don't believe it until it's official. What I do want to talk about, though, is the reaction to the community, because that's real, that's happening. And essentially, a lot of the Xbox fanboys are having an existential crisis. And I mean, I am not joking about that. But first, let me show you what we're talking about, just in case you've missed it. So here is just one tweet that summarizes the entire thing. Okay, so here it says the updated list of Xbox games reportedly going to PlayStation. And you have Indiana Jones, which hasn't come out yet, Starfield, Doom, Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Halo Infinite, Halo Master Chief Collection, Pentiment, Grounded, Gears of War, and Hellblade 2. So that's a lot to ponder, because that is pretty much all of the exciting exclusives that the Xbox ecosystem has at the moment. Some of those are tentpole titles, Halo, Gears. There's no Forza there, so I guess they keep something. Starfield, which I think is complete garbage and I wouldn't want on the platform. I mean, I don't want any of these games on the platform. I believe in exclusives, and I believe it for Nintendo. I believe it for PlayStation. I believe it for even PC, and I believe it for Xbox especially. So I don't want any of these games. If the choice was up to me, I will make sure that all of these games remain exclusives to the Xbox console. Not even Xbox and PC, just the Xbox console itself for at least a year before it can navigate your PC, and then it can navigate from there to wherever Gamepass exists, and then it will stop at that border. It will never cross into Nintendo, it will never cross into PlayStation. That would be my personal choice, my personal view on things. But obviously, I don't get to make that decision, so it is what it is. So, regardless, this has put a lot of the Xbox community into panic mode. Okay? Now, I'm not going to have the entire timeline of the tweet prepared for you. I'm sorry, I just wanted this to be a quick video, but even though the more I speak, the more I can see that there will be a longer video. I apologize for that. So I don't have the entire timeline for you, but I will tell you a little bit about kind of how it went bit for bit. So around December, right? All of these, I think it was about late December, there starts to be murmuring. Some people start and put out feelers out there. Some people even beforehand, before Starfield, you can give credit to Lono at Reforge Gaming. He said that Starfield might end up on PlayStation 5. And that was months and months ago. Ridiculed for it, made fun for it, blah, 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 blah. It is what it is. So then around December, this is when really this kind of like hot zone starts. And when they first come out, of course, they're ridiculed and everything. And then around January, first week or so, especially around like January 6th, 7th, 8th, something like that, it comes out again. And this time, it seems to have a bit more weight behind it, something that cannot just be brushed aside. And that's where we begin with the denial, like true denial of like, this will never happen. Like before they were dismissed as something that was not meant to be taken seriously, Now they are dismissed as a serious proposition, but something that we are vehemently against. A few days later, they keep picking up steam. And now I think Xbox trusted voices in the community, the Special Nicks of the world, the Tom Warrens of the world, you know, within about a week, they start weighing in favor of these rumors, basically stating that these games will be going to PlayStation. And then we have the bargaining. You see, it began with just Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves. Believe it or not, from this entire list, this really started picking up steam with just these two right there. Just those two games, Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves. And so there was a lot of kind of like collective bargaining, a lot of explanation, a lot of, well, let's face it, a lot of ways to cope with the news. And the first kind of argument was, well, Sea of Thieves is a live service game. So of course, it is advantageous for a live service game to be in as many places as possible, hit as large a user base as possible. It has already saturated whichever platforms it is currently on, so on and so forth, you know, kind of a Fallout 76 situation. Yeah, okay, fair arguments, you know. It's clearly not what is desired, but you can see the logic in it. Then Hi-Fi Rush. And so with Hi-Fi Rush, what do we say? Well, it is not longer a live service game, it is now a single player game. But Hi-Fi Rush is a small title. It is what we would, you know, colloquially name a AA title. It's smaller. It has done what it needed to do on the Xbox side. And now we run to the Switch. Because back then, even though this particular tweet I showed you was specifically talking about rumored games going to PlayStation, back then the Switch was definitely a big part of the conversation. And so people said, well, okay, if you are going to put Hi-Fi Rush anywhere, it makes sense on the Switch. That particular user base is, you know, one that will be amenable to a game like this. It is bright, it is colorful, it doesn't take a lot of horsepower to run. It could be great on the Switch, great portable game, something a pick up and play experience, you know. Really good arguments as to why it will be acceptable on the Switch. Yet, a lot of these Xbox pundits, podcasters, you know, people just like myself, you know, fans of Xbox. I mean, am I a fan of Xbox? I'm a fan of what Xbox could be. But in any ways, people that are fans of what Xbox is right now, we're saying, you know what? Should you put Hi-Fi Rush on the Switch? We don't like it, but we will accept it. Because at least it is not PlayStation. You see, what it needed to avoid in a real way is PlayStation. That was really what their main concern was. Avoid PlayStation. Even Sea of Thieves, you know, excuses were made as to why it might go to PlayStation. We talked about those before, but people were far more accepting of Switch. So what was the main argument there? Well, Ori, you know, great game, was put on the Switch, which is fair enough. It was, and it didn't, you know, set the world. It didn't burn the world. It didn't ruin the Xbox brand. So there we go. But then the rumors kept picking up steam. And now we have more people coming out and saying, listen, there's more coming. And in the timeline, before these things really started heating up, we had, I think, a little bit earlier, you know, whether that was December, November, October, I can't quite remember. Like I said, I didn't want to prepare all of this for all of that. Like, I'm not a news broadcaster, right? So there were comments by the Microsoft or Xbox CFO. He's one of those. He was talking at the Wells Fargo Summit. You guys know this story. And of course, he said that they were going to change strategy, including putting their games on what would traditionally be considered competitors' platforms, like Nintendo and PlayStation. These are almost verbatim. Okay, I don't have the quote in front of me, but that's definitely something that he said. And so you have this melting pot where I think his name is Tim Stewart. Tim Stewart's come out and he spoke to financial investors and people who truly do not care about the artistry of gaming. They do not care about the fan base of gaming. They do not care about anything but the financials of gaming, perhaps. And even those, I don't think they care about. I think they just care about financials overall, and gaming is just a way for them to increase those financials. I don't think they truly care if it came from gaming or elsewhere. And so those are the people that he's speaking to, and he makes these comments. But then later on, Phil Spencer came out and he said specifically that Game Pass will not be showing up on competitors' platforms. And this was a relief to the community. Of course, the only little, like, it's almost like when somebody says something that you want to hear, but there's just something about the pitch of the voice. There's just a ringing little frequency there that just doesn't please your ear. And in that case, it was that, he didn't specifically say that these games would not be going on the competitors' platforms. He specifically said that Game Pass will not be showing up on the competitors' platforms. It's close, but it's not quite the same. And so you had all of this as a melting pot. Now, like I said, we are now probably middle of January, maybe third week or so. And you have people who are saying all of these games are coming. And so now a new line is drawn. Okay, we can accept that these games will go to PlayStation and Switch. Fair. Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves. But we draw the line at Starfield. And again, I don't have the visuals in front of you. I don't have the tweets in front of you. But trust me, this is a very rough timeline. But I don't know, I can't show you everything, and I can't say everything that was said. But the things that I do say did happen. They did occur. Do not worry about that. There's no reason to lie. And so the new line becomes Starfield. You see, because Starfield represents what they reckon is a AAA experience. In fact, I would agree. Starfield is definitely what we consider a AAA game. Whether it is good or bad, doesn't matter. It is a AAA product. And you see, Starfield then not only represents a AAA game, but it represents a key moment in the Xbox timeline because it represents hope. Starfield is hope because for so long, the Xbox fans have been going without a big, marquee, system seller, AAA quality, potentially Game of the Year worthy game. Starfield isn't a Game of the Year worthy game, but it does fulfill most of the other requirements. It is a marquee title. It is from a big studio. It is a AAA game. And it is a new IP in a long time under the Xbox umbrella, regardless of how they acquired it. It doesn't matter. Microsoft's superpower is that they have money. They have every right to use that money to acquire a product for their fans. And that's exactly what they did. So Starfield is something that is deeply personal, and it's also extremely recent. Extremely recent. If Starfield was to make it to PlayStation this year, it might do it within the first 12 months or just after that. That is extremely quick. Even PlayStation that released their games on PC, and that is now a pipeline that we are all aware of, a lot of those games do not make it within the first 18 months. So this will be extremely fast. But in any case, Starfield was the line. And now, in the last 24 to 36 hours, depending on how my sleep schedule kind of lines up with everything, we have this. Okay, now again, here is the tweet, and I'm only staying on this tweet, guys, because I didn't want to do the entire research and give you the whole timeline. Like, there's been so many tweets from so many people. It will be a whole 2-hour thing. I just wanted to talk. So now we have this, and you see here, Starfield is there, and Indiana Jones. We've got to talk about Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones doesn't seem to me like it's going to be a great game. I don't think it will be as bad as Starfield. I don't even think it will be garbage. I think it will just be mediocre. I think it's going to be a 7 out of 10 game, maybe ranked an 8 by the critics because they happen to be kinder. It might even rank higher. Like you know how these Xbox games are. You know, like they get boosted because of all of the things that they do. But in any case, we're not talking about Metacritic scores. I think that Indiana Jones will be a good middle of the road game. Something that is not offensive in any way. It can be a fun little adventure. It will have its flaws. It will have its bright sides. And something that should get a sequel. I think Indiana Jones right now, it should get a sequel. I think a sequel will, should this first one be successful, improve dramatically on a lot of things that it has presented so far. Regardless, Indiana Jones is better positioned to fulfill all of the things that Starfield could not. Indiana Jones could be a Game of the Year contender. Indiana Jones could be a universally appraised game. Because right now, if you look at Starfield reviews, and I'm not talking about from the websites or the critics or whatever. Now I'm talking about like user gamer reviews on YouTube, people that play games, they like to talk about games, they like to critique games, they like to give their reviews and the thoughts and opinions. The perception around Starfield has soured tremendously. And I don't think that will happen for Indiana Jones, even though I can still see flaws in it right now. But like I said in my own breakdown of what happened in the developer showcase, I think Indiana Jones will end up being a much better game than what was shown in that particular showcase. I fully believe that, and I definitely think that it was going to hit a genuine, true 8 out of 10 status, at least from what I can see so far. Until they show us the next thing, then we'll see if we can adjust up or down. But it could even be a 9 out of 10. Like, honestly, I think this game has a great amount of potential. It was just a bit janky. Let's move forward. So, with Indiana Jones then, now being slated. Now, you see the sense of hurt and betrayal that must come. Because imagine that for over 10 years now, you've been ridiculed as a fan base for not having the one thing that fan bases should be made of, which is quality product. It would be like if you were a fan of a football team and they just never win when it comes to the championships, whether that's the FIFA championships or your favorite sport. It could be your favorite version of football all around the world. Like for 10 years running, you are just the butt of the industry. You're just the joke of the industry. And you believe despite all of that. And now when the brand finally seems to activate its serious power, okay? In this case, it is its ability to spend money, no problem, right? When a brand seems to activate serious power, when you are just starting to see the first fruits of those efforts, and again, the first fruits don't have to be amazing. I'm sorry, but PlayStation didn't get you God of War Ragnarok first. Like, they had to walk their way from Uncharted 2. There is a path you can trace all the way back to Uncharted 2, to Killzone, to Horizon. Like, you can follow it forward from that PS3 generation where they were the butt of the joke. They were the butt of the industry, right? They clawed their way forward, and now then they ran forward, and now they are like at their peak. They are just ascending. Each game that they seem to put out, there are missteps here and there, of course, but they just seem to be clawing back. And now they are approaching Nintendo levels of appeal, you know, where games are now selling 20 million, you know, for a single title that is brand new. That's pretty impressive. Nintendo, of course, can do a lot more, but Nintendo typically has the advantage of legacy franchises. It is what it is. So the point is, I don't need Starfield. And no one needs Starfield or Sea of Thieves or Hi-Fi Rush or Indiana Jones to immediately be seen and accepted by the community to the same degree as a Breath of the Wild or a Zelda or a Pokemon or, you know, a God of War or any of those what people would say legendary titles. We don't need them to be legendary because we accept that these are the first marching steps. And so Indiana Jones is a moment of hope. It is a ray of sunlight. And the thing is, I believe this. I'm not saying this in order to like mock Xbox fans or whatever. No. I believe that's what Indiana Jones could represent. I've always said that I am most intrigued by Fable. And for me, in my mind, it was like, okay, cool. You have Hi-Fi Rush. You had 2 missteps with Redfall and Starfield. Fair enough, no problem. Indiana Jones. We can start walking again, no problem. Then you have Hellblade 2. We can start jogging. That looks like, oh yeah, we'll start, really putting some momentums behind us. Then you have Fable, and by now you've got some miles behind you. Like, you've been putting in the work, because I believe that as studios within a family become successful, they can help one another, they can set the bar for one another, they can push one another. So by the time that you get to a Fable, or you really are like, you've picked up momentum, then you hit them with the Perfect Dark, okay, and boom, like from there on, you are now talking serious big banger status. That's what Indiana Jones is supposed to represent. And now they are saying that this could go to PlayStation. And so I understand the disappointment. I understand the sense of betrayal. I do. I think it's funny. But I think it's funny because you should have seen it coming. And I want you to know, Xbox fans, you deserve this moment. I understand why you're hurt, but I have no sympathy for your pain because you've been told this. You've been told this. You have. And you've been denying it. It's not like you were not aware of it. It's not like you didn't hear people warning you. Everybody has warned you. And I mean everybody in the community. Whether that's Porterwalk, whether that's King Trash, whether that's Sick, whether that's Jabari, whether that's Persona, whether that's Nib, whether that's OT, it doesn't matter. You've been warned on every platform that you could have been warned on. Whether that's Jazz, like it's everybody, and not Bullet Jazz, the real Jazz, 7780. Everybody has been warning you. Everybody has been warning you. There are people that are YouTube personality and they're on Twitter. They warned you. There are people that are Twitter only personalities. They warned you. There are people that are YouTube only personalities. They warned you. There are people like myself that just came in basically like just a day ago and be like, wait, what's going on here? Like clearly this is a problem. They warned you. And you refused. You refused to know. So what is the bright side in all of this? Xbox will come out in a few hours and say, you know what? All of this is fake. Or it used to be true. We saw the community reaction and the backlash. We decided to change course. No problem. Either way, this won't be happening. Cool, no problem. But what I want to change is that we have to now accept that we're going to have smarter discussions going forward, regardless of whether this comes true or not. Now people are suddenly worried on the Xbox side about exclusive games. Now you're worried. Now you're talking about console sales. For years, we've been told that we are somehow blind for not seeing that it's not about console sales anymore. We are somehow letting ourselves be abused and taken advantage of because Sony wants to sell $70 games and that shouldn't be allowed. Because Sony doesn't want to put these games on PlayStation Plus day and date. Because Sony isn't following Microsoft in this direction or that direction. Because Microsoft is the way of the future and that's where everybody's going to end up. They have tried gaslighting us. And of course, the gas wasn't lit. The gas just wasn't lit. So, now you guys want to turn around and you want to say, what are you doing to our exclusives? Why are you taking exclusives to PlayStation? Why aren't you asking PlayStation to give exclusives in return? Why this, why that? But the point is, and the reason you have no sympathy for me, is that you should have been knowing it. You should have seen it. It was plain obvious in front of you, and even if you didn't catch it, plenty of people broke it down for you. There were documentaries made about it, songs made about this, umpteenth Twitter spaces made about this, telling you that these metrics matter. So many times people would say monthly active users is the way that the industry is going forward now, engagement metrics. And then we say, okay, well, what are those metrics? And why aren't they engaging? Because that is true. Even if you decided that monthly active users matter, you still should have been worried because monthly users were not actively engaged. They were not. Gamepass has been this pinnacle, this house under which the Xbox brand now sits and under which the Xbox fans now pray. It is the tabernacle of Xbox. And yet, the metrics that they have always put out for it have never been active monthly users. They've always been the totality of anybody, the cumulative total of anybody that ever signed up for Game Pass. And that has always been an issue. That has always been worrying. People say, oh, Xbox has, 25 million subscribers in Game Pass. How do you know? How do you know? You don't know. It could be 2.5 million. But the point is that telling you the cumulative total of every account that has ever signed up. Not telling you who is actively signed in right now, who is actively signed up for Game Pass, who is actively part of the subscription service. Today, on that particular day that they release the information or they compile the information, they've never told you that. They've never given you a single useful metric when it comes to Game Pass. Cumulative total can tell a story, but it is a fairly shallow story without being able to have the actual active, monthly active users. You guys keep saying it's monthly active users, and yet you've never asked what the monthly active users are in Game Pass. It is what it is. But now you see that all of these metrics have always mattered. Console sales. Now you're worried about console sales. We told you that PlayStation was going to body the competition this generation. You guys came out of the gate with no games. And you talked about backwards compatible games. And I'm sorry. Backwards compatibility was never it. It was never it. Ever. Not even once. It matters. Yes. But it doesn't matter the way you think that it does. Especially when the competition has got the backwards compatibility that the vast majority of people will care about. If PlayStation 5 had come out and not been backwards compatible with PlayStation 4, you would have had a strong argument. You would have had a fabulous argument. You would have had a great argument. You would have had what I think is a winning argument, an undeniable argument, something that is irrefutable. But it did come out with backwards compatibility with PlayStation 4. And so your next argument then fell back to the PlayStation 3 generation, the PlayStation 2, the PlayStation 1. And you said that, those discs cannot be inserted into the PlayStation 5. And I'm sorry, but at most, maybe 2% of people would even use such a feature. And 2% of a 100 million plus user base is a lot of people. Like, you matter, obviously. We do want Sony, if they could, to just give you that feature. Of course, they should just put it on. But when you guys are trying to use it in a way where you are leveraging it as if it's something that 75+% of the fan base is going to care about, and we tell you that people don't buy new consoles for old games. When we say old, we don't mean one generation old. I'm sorry if you don't understand. We mean old games. Games that are like more than 10 or 15 years old now. Retro games. Games on PS3 and rearwards, backwards. People don't buy. They don't. 1 or 2 people will. Definitely. 1 or 2 million people will. Yes. I do believe that a lot of people use Xbox backwards compatibility for 360 titles. Sure. But not a vast minority. So not a vast majority. Not even a vast minority, actually. I didn't misspeak. Yeah, it's a small minority of people that do. And that was your thing. That was your one answer to you came out with no brand new next generation games. Then, of course, there was the marketing. You came out. No, you didn't come out. Xbox came out and told you that this is the most powerful console. This is the world's most powerful console. And you guys latched onto the technical specs. And I said many times, technical specs mean nothing. Nothing. Not a single thing. Because no product of such complicated nature can be judged only by 1 or 2 single specifications. These are complicated machines. You need to understand it as a whole, which is of course way above most of us, like our pay grade. We shouldn't have to study electrical engineering and everything in order to understand what a console can do. Sure. So then let's wait for what the games can deliver. And over here you failed because you had false prophets telling you that you will be getting 30 or 40 extra frames per second compared to the PlayStation. And it didn't happen. And when the comparisons came out and the PlayStation 5 was sometimes ahead, sometimes behind, you didn't call them out on it. You didn't say, hey, wait a second. This should not have been a competition. Now, if you said, oh, they should have 30 frames extra, and they have 15, okay, fair enough, you exaggerated a little bit, no problem. It has 15 extra frames per second, it's great, fantastic, we love it here. It's no problem. But when it is sometimes beaten in multiplayer games, because remember, you guys were supposed to own the multiplats. That was another narrative that you ran. I mean, I could create an entire video on all of the false narratives that were spewed and how we find ourselves in this place right now, if I had the time. But the point is, you were supposed to own the multiplats with that power advantage that Microsoft has sold you on, and it evaporated. It was vaporware. It never existed. And you were warned about that too before the consoles came out. Fair enough. When you should have seen it happening when Destin was out here giving you a little hand graph, telling you that eventually PlayStation was going to go like this and the Xbox was going to go like this, and it was going to have just a tremendous rise in popularity, and it was going to match the sales of the PlayStation. And we told you PlayStation doesn't have the mindshare. So Xbox doesn't have the mindshare. Xbox doesn't have the games. Xbox doesn't have the killer feature. It doesn't have that killer app. It doesn't have that shut up, pay attention, look at it. You didn't want to listen. You thought Halo Infinite was going to be it, despite having seen Halo Infinite revealed on that trailer. And then when it was shown again a year later, and it was revamped and, improved, you pretended that this game was now game of the generation. And it was still trash. It was better than the garbage that was shown before, but it was still trash. And when it came out, you guys pretended that it was going to be the hottest multiplayer in the world. And it just was never going to be. Because the very thing that allowed it to be free to play multiplayer, that live service nature, that microtransaction fuel nature, irreversibly corrupted the product that you loved. They should have charged you $70, no Gamepass day and date. And they should have taken away all of those live service elements, those microtransactions heavy elements, and they should have just presented you with the Halo of old. Same systems that they presented you with, but with a scoreboard, a rewarding progression system. I mean, it did have a scoreboard, sorry, that was a Battlefield back 2042. Nah, what I mean is an XP based system that rewarded you for being higher on the scoreboard versus somebody else, right? That makes sense. It had all of these trappings, these weekly challenges, daily challenges, everything like that. You guys know that gas games suck, right? And that's because they wanted it to be free to play. And you guys just went out and you pretended that I was going to be great, and it wasn't, because of course it wasn't. That's not what people want from a Halo, even if it's something that they would have said from like an Apex Legend or whatever. The point is, legacy matters. You guys should know. You guys are the ones that always talk about backwards compatibility. So, I remember now. Let's go back to the community. I remember once I was about a year ago or something like that. I was in a space with Xbox University. Has great spaces, right? And I was speaking. And I told him that what Microsoft has to do, what Xbox has to do, is get rid of Game Pass day and date. I told him Game Pass is a great service. I like Game Pass. I love Game Pass. I mean, Game Pass is basically just PlayStation Plus for Xbox. And I love PlayStation Plus. I get the value in it. We see it. However, it should be used for a catalog title. You shouldn't put like games day and date often, on that platform. And you certainly shouldn't put your first party games day and date, because your first party games should justify all of the features and all of the specs and all of the promises that your console has made, or the marketing of your console made. That makes it expensive. It makes it expensive to come up with so many features, so many quality of life things, graphic fidelity, sound, engineering, AI, all of that is an expensive thing. And so, the cost of the project balloons to being 50, 60, 70, 100, $150 million, or even more. That's what first party games should do. At least some of them. Some of them should do that. One or two every 3 or so years. Like, if you had you're okay. In 3 years, if you had 2 or 3 titles that really push the boundaries of what a console could do, you'll be fine. But those games will not be able to reconcile their budget with a subscription model wherein they are put day and date. So that's what I said. That was my entire argument. And this guy muted me. He screamed at me, said that apparently I'm the devil for coming in and always talking about Game Pass and how day and date is bad. And you know what? Today, these people are on podcasts, not Uni specifically, but Xbox fans on podcasts, talking about would they rather get rid of Game Pass day and date in order to maintain the Xbox exclusivity for their games. So it turns out that I wasn't so evil, was I? And I wasn't prescient. I'm not above people. I'm not of superior intellect. The truth is that the metrics guided my perspective. The metrics just say these games, considering their cost, considering what they should achieve, considering the fact that they should become your system sellers, right? They can't just be games. At least some of them have to bear the whole weight of the platform. They can't be put day and date. That was always a stupid promise. It was always a bad promise. Hi-Fi Rush, put it day and date, no problem. No, easy. Hi-Fi Rush should never be a system seller. No. Hellblade 2, put it day and date, no problem. Hellblade 2 is not a system seller. It can be a subscription seller, but it shouldn't be a system seller. But Halo, don't put it day and date. Forza, don't put it day and date. Gears, don't put it day and date. Fable, don't put it there and date. Sea of Thieves, sure, put it there and date. Microsoft Flight Simulator, go ahead, put it there and date. Pentiment, Grounded, put those there and date, no problem. Again, case by case basis. But the big tentpole titles, the shut up, look at me titles, you've got to charge that money. You've got to make that money back. You've got to fund those sequels. You've got to justify the budget. You've got to sell that system. You've got to present people like myself who are primarily playing on PlayStation, or people that are primarily playing on Switch, or even people that are primarily playing on PC, even though you can still put it on PC then, no problem. But if you could show someone that, hey, you can play this on your PC, sure, with your monitor and your whatever setup you have. But here's a box that can easily go into your living room, easily slide into that life. And it will give you, let's say, 80% of the perceived experience as your big PC for a much more affordable price with a lot of convenience built in. Even PC people might be tempted to just play a game on Xbox once in a while, so you have sold them a system. Console sales always mattered, guys. These people, they do not make consoles for creative exercises. They don't make consoles for the health. They make consoles to sell them. But again, you refused time and again. You refused to listen to the facts that metrics matters. As Jay Barry and Persona always say, the facts, data, and statistics, they matter. They absolutely matter. They always have. They always have and they always will. So, where does this leave us? Like I said, the only benefit to this is that I want the community to be more honest. Let's have more honest conversations. Let's stop pretending that metrics don't matter. Let's talk with metrics in mind. Let's ask for metrics, you know? And when they give us metrics that are euphemisms, that are sugarcoating things, let's ask for more specific metrics. When they say to you that 2 million players have tried Hi-Fi Rush, what does that mean? 2 million out of what? How many people in Game Pass? Is it 20 million people? So only 10% of people are playing this game, even though it is available on the subscription model. Is that good or is that bad? We don't know, but we should talk about it because we'll have the numbers. Is it 2 million when only 2.5 million people have logged on in the time frame that you found 2 million players? Maybe only 2.5 million people. Like, let's say you got 2 million players in one day, all right? And then only 2.5 million people actually logged in that one day. Well, that means that you have nearly 90% attach rate. That's huge. That means that you pulled people into the subscription, even if they already had it, but you pulled them in to the funnel so that they spend time on your console. That's a huge victory. No one's going to take that away from you. But that'll be a very specific metric, right? We'll understand that. When PlayStation says, for example, that Spider-Man sold 5 million copies in 1 week or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. Let's say 5 million copies in 1 week, right? That's a specific metric because we can fact check that against how many total consoles have been sold. Okay, we can even be generous and, you know, account for, you know, we can take away some miscalculations or some errors in our calculations. So for example, we all know that some people buy multiple consoles, but we can make it easier, we can make it simpler. We can just pretend that every single one of those consoles was sold to a unique user who is actively playing on the console at the moment, because that would be another thing, right? Not everybody's going to be actively using the console at the time. So we understand that we as gamers, as the community looking from the outside in, we are never going to have the most precise metrics. We are always going to have huge margins of error. But we can have a more educated conversation because of this metric, and we can say, okay, roughly 10% of the available player pool purchased this game within the first week. That is a victory. It's a huge victory. No one should take that away from you. Same thing with Xbox. We should be able to get specific facts, data, and statistics that actually answer these questions. Next time they come out with Game Pass numbers, it should not just be them saying, hey, we've hit 40 million, 50 million, 60 million, 70 million, 80 million Game Pass subscribers. It should be, we have hit X amount of monthly active subscribers on Game Pass today. Boom. That's what it should be. That's much better. Even if that number is lower than the total number, that's fine. But give us the active number. Now, PlayStation has stopped giving the active number for PlayStation Plus. And I think the reason for that is that they know that that number is going to roughly fluctuate around the 50 million mark. 50 million plus, plus or minus 5 million. That's where they're going to, from 45 to 55 million. That's kind of where they're hovering. And I think they're going to realize that, hey, we can't pull more people into PlayStation Plus no matter what we do. They put Horizon in there. It wasn't a subscription setup. In fact, it cost them a lot of money. So they're probably not going to do that again at at such a close frequency from release anytime soon. So yeah, that's my shout out to the community. Listen, Xbox fans, I should say. Xbox fans. This is terrible news. This is bad. But before I go, I would like to just say a few more things. Please stop equating Microsoft's bad moves to the rest of the industry. Please stop saying that PlayStation is going to do the same, that it's where the industry is going, that this, that. Stop trying to make other people fail in order to excuse Microsoft's failure or even to turn it around and say that it's somehow a success. Don't. Please stop. Stop saying that somehow exclusives are bad now. Stop. Don't go back to that narrative. You had it before. You let it go now in panic mode. Don't go back to grasping that because it's your safe and comfortable blanket. Stop saying that there should somehow be a universal console. Stop saying that somehow exclusives only benefit the company. Stop with these lies and this nonsense. Stop it, please. Let's have real conversations instead. Real discussions. We all understand why exclusives are good. We do. We do. When you go to a particular, when you go to a particular car manufacturer, it's probably because you want certain advantages that a car manufacturer traditionally has. A certain value proposition that they typically offer you. If you go to BMW, well, it's meant to be like the driver's car, right? If you go to Toyota, it's meant to be reliable. If you go to, Mazda, it's meant to have this kind of like understated sense of style where it is stylish enough without drawing attention to itself. If you go to a Rolls-Royce, it's meant to be luxurious. We do not ask other companies, we don't ask Rolls-Royce to sell their car or sell the tech or sell even the design language to Mazda. We do not ask Mercedes to sell Toyota. We don't ask for these things. When you go to a particular hotel, you don't go, hey, I would like you to offer what that meal that restaurant has down the road. Yeah, offer that in your own restaurant or in your own lobby. We don't do that. We understand that exclusives is how businesses drive customers and appeal to customers to be like, hey, offer us your business. That's literally all that it is. And it works for every other industry. So we're not going to pretend that somehow the Microsoft is like subverting like real world dynamics of commerce and trade and consumer loyalty and retention. Like, just stop with these fake narratives. You don't have to excuse this one. You can stop now. Again, this could be false. All of this could be false. All of this could be false. And I wouldn't even bat an eye, because my point is not that this is true or not. My point isn't to go, your games are coming. I don't even want these games. I have a PC. If I want to play these games, I can play these games. It's easy. No. My point is that the community has been poisoned by false narratives for far too long. Far too long. And there's a million more that I didn't even speak on, but this is already getting on. How many minutes is it now? Wow, 47 minutes. Sometimes it's just that kind of day where you just have to talk for a while. So yeah, stop with the false narratives. Let it be. Let it be. One way or another, you'll make it out of here. And yeah, we'll see you on the other side. We'll see you on the other side. Okay. All right. You'll have a good time. Do what you do. I feel like I don't have to actually use that phrase because that is a king trash. Yeah, it's funny because he says it and then it gets stuck in your head. And then you say it accidentally and you're like, I should come with my own phrase. Everybody has their own phrase. I should have like my own sign off. I should do something. I should be like a proper YouTube. No, I'm not YouTuber. YouTube person. YouTube YouTube creator. There we go. Yeah, I should be a proper YouTube. I should come with my own phrase to like sign off of. And then you'll be like, yeah, that's like Emmanuel's phrase. Y'all have a good time.